So in its original inception, I think the ISL had an identity crisis. And the reason they had an identity crisis was they didn't know what they wanted to be. I think one thing that you have to realize is FSDL, from my reading of the situation, and I'm not an insider, they have looked at this and gone, we have just been giving a big bag of cash to the Indian FA year after year for 15 years, and we don't think they've spent it wisely.
When the Indian Super League was born, it promised to redefine Indian football, a new era, a new identity. But somewhere along the way, that identity blurred. A decade later, the league stands at a crossroads. The 2025-26 season is on hold as the federation remains uncertain about finding a new commercial partner that will keep the league alive. Behind the scenes, questions are being asked about direction, about accountability, and about whether the money being poured into the system is building the game or simply keeping it afloat. To make sense of this moment, we spoke to broadcaster and football expert Joe Morrison, a man who has seen leagues rise, evolve, and sometimes lose their way.
The first thing everyone has to understand is where's the money coming from? There's an A side and a B side, just like a record. There's an A side and a B side to every negotiation. Who's the A side? Who's the B side? The AIFF are not the A side, and for them to think that they're the A side, that they're the ones, they're the big dogs in this negotiation, is just delusional. Who has been funding Indian football, and I'm talking about the Football Association itself, for the last 15 years? It's been FSDL, and there's been no bigger critic of FSDL than me. So we are in a situation where they're trying to negotiate a new MRA, a new Master Rights Agreement, and the AIFF is sitting there as if they have serious leverage in this conversation, in this negotiation. No. You will sit down, you will listen to FSDL. I'm sick of all these letters, it's frying my brain. And FSDL will dictate the terms because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are paying the money. Now, if you come along with some other benefactor, then fine, no problem at all. You can give and tell them to get back in their box and you will dictate the terms. That's fine. If you've got some agreement whereby, let's assume for a second that some big Saudi oil company like Aramco or something has come in as a big benefactor to you, no problem at all. You can give FSD and make them sit down. But at the moment, you're not in that position. So you really need to shut up. FSDL, from my reading of the situation, and I'm not an insider, they have looked at this and gone, we have just been giving a big bag of cash to the Indian FA year after year for 15 years, and we don't think they've spent it wisely. We don't think that they've been prudent with that cash. So now they're going like, okay, you need some more skin in the game, AIFF. You need some more skin in this game. So we're going to change the model and we're going to give more power to the clubs, financial power or revenue power to the clubs. And you will now take a stake, like you've had a stake before, but you're not getting an easy bag of cash anymore. And I kind of agree with them on that. The Master Rights Agreement ends in December. Now, it's painful when you think of the reality that a Master Rights Agreement would end midway through a season. How did we get there? Well, of course, we got there because in its original inception, the league was only 3 months long and it ended in December. So someone obviously at the beginning envisaged that this was always the way it was going to be, and there would never be any clause in any of the contracts to say, look, if the calendar of the league changes, the term, or let's call it the end date of the Master Rights Agreement would also change. No one had that forethought. So in its original inception, I think the ISL had an identity crisis. And the reason they had an identity crisis was they didn't know what they wanted to be. So obviously, remember the IPL had been launched prior to the Indian Super League coming along. It was a huge success, the format of the IPL. So you had a bunch of people, advisors if you like, to FSDL saying, this is the format we should have. You also had advisors in there from IMG. And remember, IMG, an American company primarily, and they're a marketing company. So they wanted to do things, in a sort of American model. And you also had advisors in there who were from background in English football and European football. So they wanted to do it on the model of that. So you put all of these things in a pot and you ended up with a bit of a messy meal. And I think that's where the original damage was done. Are you a season-long league? Are you a knockout tournament? Are you a cup tournament? They didn't really know what they were. Remember, the first ISL was only 3 months long, if I remember rightly, or less, 2.5 months long. So, that's really, that's like the World Cup is what is it, a month and a bit. So, yeah, it was an identity crisis in the beginning, which I think has caused a lot of other issues as the years have rolled on. India is a million miles away from Vietnam and in particular Japan, and I'll tell you why. Number one, in Japan, football is part of the school curriculum, which is really, really important. It's not prevalent in the school curriculum in India. Some schools do include football, some don't. It needs to be countrywide. And the other is integrity. You have to have integrity of the institutions. Now, what are the institutions? Well, you've got state FAs, obviously. You've got the national body itself. It's rampant with, at worst, corruption, and at best, nepotism. And those two things will never make you progress, ever. It's a cultural thing, and it comes down to schools, junior schools, senior schools. The grassroots, you've got to make sure that, like you walk anywhere in India and there are kids picking up a cricket bat or picking up a cricket ball at a very young age. Even if they can just find a little patch on the street, a little piece of space, they'll play cricket. That is not in the blood of kids. With regards to football in India. India has ingredients which certainly here in the Middle East, many other leagues don't. And that is strong fan bases. You've got a country which is, the last time I looked at the rankings, and somebody may correct me on this, India, I think, was the second or third in the world for the number of billionaires. So you've got a pot of money for financial support, because if you don't have the financial support, then look, nothing's going to happen. So you've got a good pot of corporate houses and financial backing available. You have strong fan bases for a majority of clubs, or certainly certain areas in India, the traditional areas, the northeast, of course, Bengal, Goa, and the south. So you've got that. And you have a population, and I keep saying this, if you're trying to build a national team that can compete on the world stage, and you're from a South Pacific island, for example, and the population of the island is 50,000, how on earth are you going to build a team that's globally competitive? You can't. You just don't have the numbers of population, because in that 50,000, you've got half female, so we're now down to 25,000, and some of them are old. You've got 10,000 people who are old and can't, not of the age demographic to play on the international stage. So now you're down to 15,000, and then you take out the young children that can't play because they're less than 10 years old. Now you're down to 5,000. You're never going to produce a team. India has 3 billion. So you've got a pool of talent, potential talent to choose from. You've got corporate houses and financial backing. And you've got strong, established legacy fan bases. Why can you not put that together?
Indian football stands at a tricky crossroad. With the right investment in players, infrastructure and culture, it can become a powerhouse in Asia. And voices like Joe Morrison's remind us that the passion is here, the talent is here. The future, that's what we build next.